Destiny has now defamed Hasan Piker in a leftist on a socialist battle. We're going to get into that today on Legal Minds, where we teach you to be your own judge. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney, enjoying my time here in the USA for however long that is, keeping that a little mysterious as I get into this creator drama and this potential legal issue for Destiny, who's already embroiled in deep allegations regarding his past sexual conduct, which is the course of a current lawsuit, including potential possession of CSAM on his computer. And in an attempt to perhaps deflect from this is attempting to defame Mr. Hasan Piker, who is, once again, not doing well on the internet either, and is certainly subject to many of his own scrutinies, coming from Collargate to various other comments he's made and defamation of his own and other behaviors. So it's kind of the bad against the bad here, of which I have no particular dog in this fight, whether Hasan or Destiny prevails against each other. That is something I do not care about, but it brings up some fascinating legal questions and even some international legal questions as we get into today on the Legal Mindset. Of course, I've got the PowerPoint for you. I've got the PP, and we're going to talk about that today here with Destiny defaming Hasan. So let's get into it. Obviously, our players, our characters in this, drama today, this legal drama today is Destiny. Once again, I love this Attack on Titan version of him. It's just absolutely my favorite. But you got Destiny, obviously a streamer, and obviously once again, well-known on the left. And I think this is very critical in terms of their political position, because they're both jockeying for supporters within their own area. And that's relevant to one of the reasons that might be behind this is obviously people on the left are all fighting with other people on the left for their supporters, for people to follow them, because people on the right are not going to go and jump over and watch Destiny or Hasan. But people on the left could be persuaded to either go to the more radical end, you might say, with Hasan, or the more unhinged end with Destiny. You got to pick your character there with either one. But now with Hasan, who is the other character here, and of course you've got his constant protector and senpai there, Dan Clancy. Hasan, once again, no innocent angel over here. Hasan definitely has many flaws of his own, but even a flawed person can be defamed. Even a flawed person or a person that we don't like can still end up being defamed. And as we do it on this channel, I'm going to be very obvious and upfront and honest with you guys about this legal analysis, in which I actually, looking at it, it doesn't look good for Destiny. It looks much better for Hasan Piker. So this involves the Artemis brothel in Germany. Now, one important thing, and this is something that's very critical, and a lot of people lose this, particularly if you don't travel outside the United States, is that the engagement of sex work around the world is not like it is in the United States. In some countries, it's legalized formally. In some countries, it's legalized informally. In some countries, the definition of prostitution is something that is very narrow. So because of that narrow definition, it's kind of informally okay, even though on the books, it's not okay. But in Germany, they've formally done it. And in fact, as part of that, much like the Netherlands and other countries, they said, hey, you've got to do things like provide, benefits for these people. You've got to pay for them. They've got to get wages. The sort of protections that you'd want if you're going to decriminalize sex work, you're going to legalize sex work, and to make it safe for the people involved. And one of the people who's actually been surprisingly pro-sex work legalization is Hasan Piker. Now, why I say surprisingly, because his typical leftist allies are typically against that. In fact, the groups that are most rabidly against that are usually radical feminist groups, although there are groups on the right that are opposed to this as well. But once again, we're talking about inter-left battle here. So looking at this mega brothel, once again, a place that was established during FIFA because the owner, as he quoted during the World Cup, sex and football belong together. So he started this mega brothel, and it's been in operation for a while. But Destiny came out and said, if Hasan is going to reach so hard, and once again, I'll give some context here. Destiny is mad because of Hasan's jokes about Nick Fuentes and him engaging in a potential amorous relationship. Once again, whether or not these things are true, who knows, right? Maybe Destiny wants to come after Hasan for defamation in regards to his relationship with Nick Fuentes. That would be a fun case to cover. But beyond that, Destiny was Destiny was mad about this joke, this fun that was made at his expense. And so he clapped back at Hasan. And he said, Hasan is going to reach this hard to say I kickstarted Fuentes' career. Then I am responsible for his career, Hasan's career, 10x over. And once again, nothing about that first part is necessarily defamatory. They're arguing about whether or not they got Fuentes a start. Who knows about that? That's really neither here nor there. But the second part is the defamatory part. And that is Hasan effed a 15-year-old when he was visiting that brothel in Berlin. That's why he doesn't like to talk about it as much now. And he continued, Destiny doubled down on this. And this is the part where it really gets into defamation, saying that's quite the allegation. And Destiny says it's common knowledge behind this. Common knowledge, without providing any sort of proof, without providing any sort of Carfax, without providing any sort of other thing, saying, hey, Hasan told me this himself. If Hasan wants to contest it, he can sue me, but he won't, because the truth is an absolute defense against defamation. Well, I hope you have a lot of proof of that, because just saying it's common knowledge doesn't actually do that. And what I think he means by common knowledge is it's on internet forums, it's on places that perhaps don't like Hasan, right? And put that line out there. So let's look at the actual facts here. So the facts about Artemis, when you look it up online and you look into, okay, what actually happened with this brothel? What you really find is what honestly is a tax raid. And as we all know, the Joker even fears the tax man. You do not mess with the tax man. You make sure you pay your taxes. Guys, pay your taxes, right? There was a massive raid on a German mega brothel. This in 2016. So remember, this is after Hasan visited, but there's a alleged human trafficking and tax fraud. And this was a raid in 2016 where they were accused of evading 17.5 million in Social Security payments. Now, this is something that is very common, not just with brothels, but with many companies, where they make people pretend to be self-employed to avoid these payments for Social Security. I'm looking at you, Niji Sanji, VTuber companies. They do this all the time with, pretending people are self-employed when really they're making them work like employees. So they were conducting this with customs officials and tax fraud investigators. And generally what was found after that, and there were several appeals and challenges here, but generally was that they were not paying their taxes properly. And that is very much on the nose with this. Once again, after Hasan was there, I doubt that Hasan has the capability or qualities to do German accounting and be liable for their Social Security payments. But the fact is that he did visit Artemis in 2010. And now Hasan does openly support decriminalization of sex work, which of all the positions out there, that's probably one that I agree with Hasan more than anything else, which is kind of crazy because that issue kind of splits along the male-female divide. Typically, most men across divides typically would agree with that. Some females agree with that, some don't. It's kind of split there. But that's a very interesting one, as a lot of the stiff opponents are the radical leftists. We don't know the age or the gender of any sex worker engaged by Piker. Now, I'll talk about that later because you can make an accurate statement about Piker and you can say things about his visit that are non-defamatory. The other thing is the age of consent in Germany is 14. So if he did engage a 15-year-old sex worker, it would not necessarily be illegal. Now, I don't know all the German statutes on sex work. It's possible that while the age of consent in Germany is 14, there could be some statute regulating German sex workers, right? That says they need to be 18 or they need to be 16 or whatever else. I don't know that. I'm not a German sex work expert. By the way, if there's some German sex work experts out there, please throw a comment below. And like the video, by the way. You should like the video whether you're a German sex industry expert or not. And we know that. So technically, even what he said about Hasan wouldn't be accusing him of a crime. Now, it would be accusing him of something that would be damning to his reputation. That's very true, especially if he's trying to imply that this was, somebody that was hired illegally and there was something illegal going on or being trafficked, etc. The other thing we do know, and this is once again, I think, very relevant to this, is that Destiny admitted to CSAM on his PC. He's essentially said that he has videos, etc., on his PC about Rose, who was at the time, and based on all the facts we know right now, was underage, right? Which fits the criteria for that. So obviously there's some deflection that needs to happen or that Destiny is trying to make happen on his part. So an analysis of the truthful statement, a truthful statement that is non-defamatory would say that Hasan visited a German mega brothel that was later raided for tax fraud and human trafficking. You can say it was raided for that, right? That's true. There are appeals. There's other things that happen there, right? And now there's a lot of talk about the underage person, et cetera, all the underage claims. Apparently that happened in 2013 and was unrelated to operations in 2010. I'm not sure. The details on that are very sparse. It's hard to find exactly what happened in 2013. It might have been related to somebody who was working there but did it outside of business or regular operations. But as far as I know, this place is still operating. And based on its continued operation, you would assume that regular operations do not engage people that are under Germany's age of consent. So that would be a assumption. And that's important for defamation, because if he's trying to accuse that, hey, this person engaged in something underage, well, it would appear that that was not the case in 2010. And therefore, the most you could say, and I think this is fair, is that if Hasan visited Artemis in 2010, he likely engaged a sex worker, right? Likely. That you can't say for sure because you don't know. Now, what Destiny is implying is that he was sitting in the chair in the corner. Now, while Destiny is very used to sitting in the chair in the corner while other people enjoy women behind him, I don't think he was in there in the room with Hasan. Hasan can testify to that himself. Unless Destiny was in the room watching him, I don't think there's any proof of that Destiny could possibly muster that would meet an appropriate bar that would get him scot-free off of defamation at a motion to dismiss level. Remember, guys, and we've talked about this with many cases, it's not about winning the whole case. It's about getting past the motion to dismiss, getting to discovery, and then getting them to settle. And I think Destiny will be forced to settle on this because I don't think he's got enough bulletproof evidence to get that motion to dismiss and say, yep, truth is an absolute defense and I've got the truth. I know the truth. Were you in the room, Destiny? Were you sitting in the chair in the corner? I mean, if you were, I think that's a story of the century, but I don't think that was the case here. So my conclusion is Hasan has a solid case for defamation against Stephen Bennell, and that's, of course, Destiny. Destiny is likely deflecting from his own CSAM issues, and Hasan is a very easy target, particularly after Collargate. Collargate not going anywhere anytime soon, and Hasan is seen as a low-hanging fruit that everyone can just kick. But despite that, because Destiny is an apt target. He has the funds for defamation. He's somebody you might want to go at. Typically with defamation, you don't want to go at it with small fry, with losers, with people that are below you. But these guys are the same level. They're rivals. This would be a very appropriate case. And in fact, Hasan, if he wants to take a good shot at Destiny, this is the best legal opportunity that I think Hasan is going to get to take a headshot at that Stephen Bennell of Destiny that could actually wound him and, perhaps not take him off the internet, but critically wound him at a time in which he is weak, right? He is projecting a false bravado at a time in which he is facing some illegal consequences. But I want to know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll catch you on the next one.